Good morning, it's Karen, and here are my orange reader recommendations. There is this website that has been going around. People have been enjoying finding out what reader they are. And this website offers these fake synopses of varying different books. And you're basically supposed to rate it like, how interested are you? Very interested, sort of interested, kind of interested, not interested, definitely not interested. And you kind of rate it on a scale. And in the end, you get this color reader recommendation. Now, I did this just to see what was going on. And my favorite YouTuber that I have the most similar reading taste to, I wondered if I had the same as her. That's Julie over here. She ended up being a purple reader, with her second being orange. Mine, on the other hand, was orange, second being purple. And I loved what she did is she had recommendations for purple readers. And so I thought I would do the same thing, and I would recommend books that I see as orange reading. Orange readers like masterful world building. They like imagination, and they like exploration, and they love vivid storytelling. They like expansive worlds and epic adventures, which makes sense for me because I do love fantasy. And they really like a richly driven narrative. For orange readers, reading is about discovery, excitement, and journeys that stretch the boundaries of the imagination. With that, I've got a number of recommendations of books that I have read, and I would love to offer some of these instead of the ones that they recommended, because the ones that they recommended I've either already read or I'm not interested in. So, here we go. Let's start with the most obvious genre, and that is fantasy. Fantasy is probably my most read genre, which makes sense why I'm an orange reader, because I love the epic adventures. So, speaking of epic adventures, let's delve in. I, of course, have to recommend the Tower of Babel series, starting with Senlin Ascends, because this is an adventure. It is a man who is on his honeymoon with his wife. They've gone to something called the Tower of Babel, which is this expansive tower with many different levels. It is a bit of a tourist spot, and each level is more difficult to get into. And before he even gets to the tower, his wife goes missing, and so thus begins the plot where he goes to search for his wife. There are 4 books in this series. I am currently on I'm on the last book. I just finished reading book 3, 5 stars. The writing is impeccable. The vivid storytelling, that is one of the things Orange Reader loves. He manages to write in such a way that is dense but goes so quickly. There is commentary, but it is also fast moving and very complex characters, and I absolutely adore this series. I would also like to recommend The Tainted Cup. This is a new genre love for me, and that is a mix of fantasy and mystery. The Tainted Cup is about a sort of Sherlockian character who has very observant skills. Now, there's a really cool magic mechanism in this where scents are associated with memory. So he goes around and he will look at a room. He will smell his whatever smell that he's got. It's like a case of different smells. He smells the smell. He observes the whole room like a crime scene. And when he goes back to regurgitate what the crime scene looked like, he smells the smell again and is able to completely recall everything. And that's a really cool mechanism. This is a complex world. It feels very Asian in scope. It reminded me a lot of Attack on Titan because there are titans attacking the world while this whole mystery is going on, and it becomes like this complex conspiracy theory of like political complications, and it is just fun and wild. And I'm so excited that there's a second book in this series. Another one that I would love to recommend, massive world building, incredible narrative, and that is The Red Knight. The Red Knight is one of my favorite fantasy books ever, along with the second book. There are 5 books, but they are long, they are wonderful, they are chunky, and if you want anything immersive to get into that is so incredibly well crafted, I would highly recommend this one. The Red Knight is our main character. He is a mercenary who travels around with his little army, and they basically are for hire. The thing that sold me on this story was that they are hired to protect a nunnery from wyverns or dragons. And that was just like, that was enough of a setup for me. There is way more complex stuff going on in this story, and I was pleasantly surprised. Cameron has a way of taking a character and making you love them in one sentence. I don't know how he does it, but he will do that. He will just, you suddenly love somebody. There is the most detestable character you will ever read in this series. It is not the main character. I'll say that. The main character is very flawed, but he's very lovable. Wild magic and political problems and like complex family thing going on. It's so good. It's so good. Would highly recommend this one. Jade City. Jade City is a bit of a slower moving fantasy, but if you want that complex world and that epic feel, you are going to get this with this one. Jade City is a world where Jade provides you with different kind of superpowers. They enhance your abilities. And this sort of centers around one family. Now think mafia family. If I remember correctly, there are 4 siblings, and we get to follow all 4 of them as they sort of grow and move within this world that is kind of futuristic, kind of stuck in the past. It's very much flavored like Singapore. It reminded me a lot of Hong Kong when I went and visited. So this one is very, very cool. Lots of fight scenes, lots of mafia, like maneuvering, so fun. The last one I would recommend is Justice of Kings. More complex worlds, so much fun, incredible characters. This is another mystery fantasy that I absolutely love. This is one I would say for the darker months. It is set in wintertime. This follows a clerk to a justice. A justice is like a judge that goes around from village to village and basically delivers the king's law. And the clerk is our main protagonist. She is recounting her story as an older woman, recounting what happened as her younger woman, to her younger self. I adore this series. I think I read this book in like 3 days. It flies by. It is gripping. It is wonderful. And Richard Swan is one of my favorite authors ever. Let's move on to some nonfiction. There were 2 adventurous nonfictions that I immediately thought of when I was thinking of recommendations. The first one, it doesn't seem as adventurous, but it is if you're not from this place, and that is The Raven Master. This is about a man whose sole job at the Tower of London is to look after the ravens, and he wears the whole like beefeater uniform, and he manages to weave this incredible story and kind of gives you a behind the scenes of a very famous landmark. I have never been to the Tower of London, and so maybe that's why it felt like an adventure to me, because I felt like I was getting not only the experience of going, but a look behind the curtain of the very famous ravens on this land. The other one I would recommend is called Dead Mountain, and this is all about the Dyatlov Pass conspiracy event problem. This is, I guess you would maybe call true crime, kind of. This is about a group of young people, sort of college aged in Russia, and they go on an kind of adventure camp to try and get, I don't know, some sort of certification for exploration. I can't quite recall what it was called. But something goes horribly wrong, and there are so many different stories, but I felt like this one dealt with it in such it balanced it really well with the mystery, not so much sensationalized, and he came up with his own theories of what happened. And I absolutely adored this one. It is a shorter book, so you will fly through it, and it just is gripping, and it will draw you in and feel for these people. Let's go over to science fiction. First one I would love to recommend is Red Mars. This is an expansive, epic world adventure. This is about a crew that goes on a planet, that goes on a ship to go colonize Mars. And it is all about creating this new society on Mars and all of the problems and things that arise therein. And this is very expansive. It follows the main character over like 20 years or something. And it's all in one book. There are 3 books. I have the second one on my list. But for some reason, I just adored this one. The main characters are sort of like, but I loved the exploration of what if we had the opportunity to build a new civilization? What would it look like? The next one I'd recommend is Old Man's War. Speaking of going on a ship and going places, this one is funny, but it also follows a character who leaves Earth, goes on a ship to unknown places, and he goes in the military. Now, when you turn, I think 75, you get the opportunity to stay on Earth or be hired and go off to the military, serve for 5 years, and then be granted your own land to retire to. And this is sort of following him and his crewmates, and as they kind of discover what this actual Old Man's War is all about. It is very epic. There's a lot of, I would say, military maneuvering. So if military style sci-fi is not your thing, maybe pass on this one. But if it is, highly recommend. Very entertaining, very funny. Now for some classical classics. I'm sorry, I can't go a video without recommending The Count of Monte Cristo. This is like the ultimate revenge story adventure. And it is, yes, it is long. But like if you're gonna read those long fantasies, you're gonna read The Count of Monte Cristo and be completely blown away with how someone from the 18th century can draw you into that world and make you feel completely like you know what's going on. This is following a man who gets falsely accused, thrown in jail for like 20 years, and he just like vociferates on how he's going to get his revenge. Long story short, comes into some wealth and then proceeds to use that wealth to seek revenge on all of the people who wronged him. And it is glorious. Okay, another thick one, I'm sorry, but Moby Dick, hello adventure story. I think you could probably get the abridged version where it's just the story of Ahab chasing the white whale. But I really enjoyed the whole book. There is a lot of historical context to the whaling industry that I was blown away by. I didn't know anything about the whaling industry, and now I do, and I keep trying to find books more like this. And all I get recommended is Moby Dick. So maybe I'll just read Moby Dick again. This is following the crew of, oh no, I forgot the name of the ship. But they're a whaling ship, and they go on an adventure, but it turns out that the captain has a vendetta against this white whale. And he's been chasing this white whale and trying to basically get it back for chomping off his leg. It's a story, it's a revenge story. It's so much more than that. It's very historical in its scope, and the characters just jump off the page. So would recommend this one for the epic adventure, for the vivid storytelling. Oh my goodness, the writing. I think someone said that this was the greatest American novel. I can see why, because the writing is spectacular. And then I read somewhere too that the author read only Shakespeare while writing this. It shows. It definitely shows. It is beautiful. Go on an adventure on a whaling boat. Historical. Once Was William is a historical fantasy. Reminds me a lot of T.H. White and Frankenstein kind of merged together. But it is medieval, ultimately. It is about a boy called Willem who gets resurrected because his parents miss him so much. And then they reject him because he's not Willem anymore. He once was, but now he isn't. And it's sort of his story of finding a new family and grappling with what it means to be human or not. There is also a baddie who we get to follow his character and perspective, and he is the sorcerer who resurrected Willem. And he basically just makes all these like really bad, evil sorceress decisions, and the people have had enough, and they all rebel, and there's just this like it ended up being so much more wonderful and grand than I expected. It definitely pushed my imagination. One of my favorites I read as a teenager is also another medieval. It is called The Falcons of Montebard. This is historical romance being sort of more the side thing, but it is a driving factor. This is set in the time of the Crusades and going to the Holy Land. So we begin in England. We are following a sort of a bastard child who can't do anything well, and his family is just like, we're going to send you away with this knight who's going on crusade, and you'll just like, you'll transform, you'll get better, like it's sort of a punishment. And of course, this knight has a beautiful young daughter, and so we get her perspective, the knight's perspective, and the rebel's perspective. And they all go to the Holy Land. We get to follow them going on the ship, traveling there, experiencing the different culture. The whole learning about what happened on the Crusades was fantastic. And also the romance was wonderful and lovely. So if you're wanting just one of those gobble it up historical books, I would recommend this one. And lastly, we're going to do mystery. Amelia Peabody is an Egyptologist at the turn of the century, 20th century, and she goes to Egypt with her husband, and they are basically solving mysteries. And I love this because this is another funny book, and there is like, what is it called? Physical comedy. So lots of things go wrong. The main character is sort of dry. She's indomitable. She takes no nonsense. She's got a bit of a blind eye to husband's advances. She's just sort of like oblivious to that. And she's a lady scientist. We gotta love that. The author, I think herself was an Egyptologist. So you're reading a book written by somebody who knows what's going on. And I adore this. I love Agatha Christie's Death on the Nile. So if you want the vibes of Death on the Nile, you're going to get this one, and you're going to love it. And I recommend for anybody that loves the Veronica Speedball series to read Amelia Peabody, because it's so much fun. And the last book I'd like to recommend is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Would highly recommend this one as an audiobook. Listens a little bit like a podcast. This is following our main character, who is determined as a... Now, the United States have weird names for all of these, but I think it's her last year of high school, and she's got some sort of community project that she wants to do. And so what she wants to do is solve this mystery of this girl that she sort of tangentially knew, who disappeared. The whole book is her seeking to solve this mystery. And she gets embroiled and tangled in the community because, of course, she's in the community. So these are all people that she knows and know her, and it gets complicated because it's personal. But I love it. It is wonderfully written. It is so vivid in its storytelling, and it is a bit of an adventure because you don't know what's going on. You're just like, okay, keep reading, keep reading, keep reading. This is wonderful. Would highly recommend this one. I know I keep saying that I would highly recommend, but I would. I really would. These are the best books. My name is Karen. I'm the book Libronaut. I read all types of books. I have so many more recommendations for you, but we will have to save that for another day. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon. Bye. Now for some classics. Now for some classics.